Now, do you find it a little bit tough sometimes in life and you just think, oh, there's got to be an easier way? Well, fear not. I have got some great budget mountain bike life hacks for you to make things just that little bit simpler when you're working on that trusty steed of yours. So let's dive in then. And number one on the hit list is this. The trusty gear strap. Now these things are really useful. They're great if you want to get things out of your pockets or not have to take a backpack and attach things to your bike. Now this one I've got here is like a mountain bike specific one. There's a loop inside of a loop. So in here I can attach a tube or a little multi-tool, and then this will strap over the frame, holding it nice and secure. You don't need to buy a fancy one like this. You can get really simple, cheap Velcro straps online, which are only going to cost you a couple of quid. Well worth looking around. That way you can then attach a tube, a multi-tool, some energy gels, whatever to your bike, or if needs be, you can use it to actually fix your bike and get you out of trouble. This one's a great little time-saving hack and great in the workshop. What am I talking about? Well, this, a trusty little drill. If you've got one of these little beauties knocking around that you're not using very often, then why not make the most of it? Get a T25 Torx bits, and then you can whiz those brake rotors on and off really easily. No more arm pump doing them up. Now there are a few things to look out for here. Mostly that if you've got a big powerful drill like an 18 volt or a 24 volt, then you're going to want to be really careful not to just plow those screws in. This is a nice little 10 volt handheld, like a lightweight drill, does the job nicely. Secondly, the settings on them. On here, we've got a screwing setting and a hammer setting for when you're screwing into the walls or things like that. Make sure it's on the screw setting. Obviously the impact of the hammer setting is more than likely going to round the heads of the bolts. Talking about rounding the heads of the bolts, you're also going to want to make sure the torque setting is correct. So you see you've got these numbers around the top here. Just make sure that they're fairly low and just learn what the correct torque bit for your, or torque setting for your drill is first. Otherwise, if it's the higher the number, the higher the torque, and it's just going to spin and round those bolts as well, or damage your hub potentially, which is no good. Once you've got those settings dialed in and you've had a couple of goes, you'll be whizzing those rotors on and off F1 style in no time at all. Let's talk cockpit setup then. Now, the hack that I've got lined up for you here is the cheapest one because it costs nothing. Zilch, nothing at all. You ain't got to spend a penny. And what I mean by that is it's simply marking where your cockpit is. Using a Sharpie or a pencil, once you've got your bar, stem, levers, everything absolutely dialed and where you want them, just make small little marks so that each time you move something, you can easily put it back to the correct place. So if you swap a brake over or you want to try a different lever position and you don't like it, you can always go back to those original marks. Now this is really handy for at races or when you're changing the stem or bar over. So for example, if you get some new forks, not a budget hack I know, but say you get some new forks and you take the bar and stem off to slide the new forks in, when you come back to putting those bar and stem on, you'll have your markings to know exactly where everything was. Now, if you do want something more permanent than a Sharpie or a pencil mark, then you can use a little Stanley blade and just make a little mark on the stem or wherever, just so that you've always got that permanent marking of where things are going to go. Now, tyres are expensive. We aren't all lucky enough to be given them, and I certainly know that from my days as racing as a privateer. The tubeless patch for tyres is a wondrous thing and not a hack in itself. However, how we're going to put it on is a bit of a hack. Now here is an unfortunate victim of the Andes Pacifico race. This tyre here I used and got a small slice in the sidewall, unfortunately, and we're going to go through how we can patch it up with this, but so these stay on. A lot of the times these can flex and fall off if they're not glued on properly. So this tyre had a pretty hard life at the Andes, I shan't lie. It had seen some action, that's for sure. Hence all the latex stuck all over it. But once you've cleaned that off and it's looking nice and, you know, relatively grime free for the area that the patch is going to take up, we're ready to start sticking this thing on. Make sure it's in the right place. Bingo bango. Flip the tyre inside out. Now, here is the hack. What we're going to do, we've got that pressed nice and firmly in there. We're going to put that tyre on a rim. There we go. Let's get that on there. Now, to help that stick, I'm going to place this tube in. Okay. Now, here's the hack. When we inflate this tyre, what's going to happen is the tube is obviously going to go up and force that patch onto the tyre. You leave that overnight, she'll be good as gold. Glued on, nice and solid. Have you got some old lock-on grips knocking around you were going to throw away, they were just going to be landfill, didn't need them anymore? Well, don't stop, because I've got a great little hack which they're useful for. Now, when you've got some new bars, you might want to cut them down to the correct length, because often they come a bit too wide. These are great little makeshift guys for cutting them down. Now, I've got an old lock-on here from many moons ago, and what I'm going to do is slot it onto the bar the other way around so that the metal clamp is on the end of the bar. And what that's going to be really useful for is either marking or using as a guide for cutting those bars down. A lot of new bars nowadays have pre-marked widths already on them. As you can see on mine, I've got mine cut to 760 already. But if you wanted to take more off of them, you could always slide the lock-on grip with the clamp end to the preferred width that you want, and then use that clamp to carefully cut down. Now, if you didn't want to cut down the grip, what you could always do is mark around the grip here, slide it back off, and then carefully use that pencil or pen mark to cut nice and neatly all the way around. Great little hack if you don't have one of those specific saw guides. I'm sure you've had it before where you've put the tubeless tyre on, you've got it on the rim, you've put the gunk in, you're trying to seat it and get it inflated, but air's just pouring out the sides and you've got latex flying here, there and everywhere. Well, try this handy little hack and I'm sure you're going to find things a lot cleaner in the future. Now, with your trusty rim and tube setup, we're going to use an inner tube again. I know, tubeless, right? But we're using an inner tube. And what we're going to do with that is we're going to put the tyre on the rim first on one side, install the tube, and then obviously install the other side of the tyre, and then inflate. What we want is for both sides of the tyre to pop on the bead. So when you hear that sort of snap, crackly pop sound, you know that they've seated good and proper. Once that's happened, take one side of the tyre off, take the tube out, put your tubeless valve in, and then with one side of the tyre already seated, when you put the tyre back on and insert your sealant through the valve or with the tyre slightly off, however you choose to do it, the air has got half the amount of places to go and you should find that things should inflate a whole lot easier. Now, this is a trick I use all the time and I find it really helpful because, well, I don't have a compressor, just got good old hand pump. So if I can make it easier and cleaner, then that's a hack and a win in my books. Boom. So there we go, with the aid of a trusty inner tube, no mess, no fuss, got it nice and inflated first time, no leakages or anything like that, and she is good to go. Now, I hope you've liked watching these budget mountain bike hacks and I hope they help you out next time you're working on your bike. Some of them are even free, so super budget. Anyway, thanks for watching everybody. If you'd like to watch more GMBN, don't forget, subscribe to us below and give us the old thumbs up, it's always appreciated. And I'd love to hear in the comments if you've got any other great mountain bike hacks. Thanks for watching everyone, cheers, and I'll see you next time.